thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this project and for considering me to be a mentor, which is really nice of you, and it's actually quite humbling, so thank you very much once again. This is a really interesting question because it made me think about something that I'm a little bit obsessed with recently especially, and that's the fact that I didn't really think that I had mentors when I was growing up, and it was very difficult for me to identify with women because there weren't that many in books. All these characters that we were reading about, they were normally just, women who were fainting or women who were somehow somebody's muse. And it was rough. I didn't even think about what other options I had in my life because I wasn't that exposed to different types of professions or ambitions on behalf of women. It was like women were generally absent from a lot of fields, which has changed nowadays, but not enough. And I remember also somehow when I was in my early 20s, I felt that I didn't have a lot of support from women who were older in my environment. And I felt that a lot of them actually didn't like me and that they weren't really supporting me, and they somehow felt that I was a threat. And I saw this with a lot of other younger women as well, where they wouldn't have the protection of older women who would have been their mentors, and they wouldn't protect them, for instance, from harassing older men. So it was difficult. I think kind of being raised in that kind of environment, and I think this is changing, so I'm really happy that that's going on. It reminded me, like, one of the mentors, let's say, that I have now is Rebecca Solnit, and I'm just reading this wonderful book of hers called Recollections of My Non-Existence, and just in the opening section, it just struck me what she said. She says, which is very much connected to what I'm talking about and what I'm obsessed with. So, to be a young woman is to face your own annihilation in innumerable ways, or to flee it, or the knowledge of it, all these things at once. The death of a beautiful woman is unquestionably the most poetical topic in the world, said Edgar Allan Poe, who must not have imagined it from the perspective of women who prefer to live. I was trying not to be the subject of someone else's poetry and not to get killed. I was trying to find a poetics of my own, with no maps, no guides, not much to go on. They might have been out there, but I hadn't located them yet. And that was something that I was really trying at the time, and I hadn't located many of those, let's say, mentors or things or maps or, women that I could look up to, though there were a few. There was my friend Vivian Eden, who's a wonderful translator from Israel. She translates from Hebrew to English. And I learned so much from her, and also I learned a lot from one of my teachers at the university, Peggy Reed. She taught academic writing, and just communicating with her about poetry and not being judged by her or Vivian, and feeling so normal and so beautiful and so warm in their company and so reassuring. And also they were very critical of me in a very kind way. So those are two women that I always look up to. I think mentors educate, and they give their knowledge, and they support people with kindness, and they listen. So I think that's what a great mentor is. Someone who doesn't judge, who listens, and who shares knowledge and understands that they can also learn from you. I guess that would be a mentor, at least in my definition. And I also love this question because I never realized that I wanted to be a writer, because it was so out of my league to think of such a thing. Like, it was not something that, a little girl dreams of, because there weren't that many women writers. Though my grandmother was a writer, but my grandmother never took me seriously as a girl, and she didn't even take herself seriously as a woman. She just knew that as a woman, she wasn't being taken seriously by society, and instead of disliking society for what it is, she was kind of turning it against her gender. And she did that with me. She also did not really get what I was doing, and now, you know, I get how we didn't respect each other, and it really makes me sad, but on the other hand, I'm glad that I realized it. So, you know, she wrote children's books, for instance, and she also wrote crime novels and you know, like romance novels, like little romance books, and she had her own audience, but I never took her seriously. So I never thought, oh, this, you know, once she said to me also, you know, the best thing to be in the world is a journalist. I was like, why would I be a journalist? I never understood what was, you know, what was behind those professions. They were not really considered, you know, feminine in any way. So I never realized that I never thought I'm going to be a writer one day. It never occurred to me. It was just something that you know, I loved reading, and then I just tried to emulate what I was reading. I tried to do what other people who had given me literature had done. So I was like, I want to do what other people did for me. So I want to give back in the same way. I was just inspired in that way. And I just kind of shyly started to write, you know, these short stories, and my kind of like when I was 18 or 19, though I had written a lot of poetry before that, even as a child, and I published things, and it doesn't matter. I didn't realize that this was something that I could actually do. So yeah, I thought, you know, that I could be a teacher because this is something that I had a model of. But it didn't occur to me that I could be other things. And one of them was a writer. So, and it took me a long time to actually say that I'm a writer. It took me, it took some outside acknowledgement for me to actually say, hey, I'm a writer. So, yeah. It's just, again, I like to describe the world around me, and I channel my feelings, obviously, through my writing, and not just my emotions, but also the frustrations that I have with this world, and my criticism and my anger as well. I think I channel it all through my writing, and I try to give it a context, a social context. So that's what it is. I wouldn't say that writing is therapy for me. I would say that I understand what an effect it has, because I really think, you know, I think that it's joy to read. It's a joy to read, and it's a joy to understand things. Knowledge is joyful, and so I just want to do the same thing, and that's essentially why I started writing, and what writing signifies for me. So I'm not the only person who has said these things, the things I'm going to just say now. I've heard that other writers struggle with this, and just other artists in general. So I have this idea that I think is brilliant normally. This is how it goes, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe that, you know, I finally remembered or thought up of how to connect these things, or how to present this particular social or emotional phenomenon. And then I get really excited, and what happens is I frequently call my friends and tell them what I thought of. And then, you know, after maybe a couple of days or a couple of months, you know, because it takes me time to structure the story and actually sit down and write it, this kind of excitement dwindles. And then I start writing the story. And as I start writing it, I think, ooh, this is so exciting. And I really get into it. And then I get somewhere midway through the story, and I think, oh, this is absolute shit. Why am I writing this? And why am I inventing stories that are not true and never happened, and who cares? And why would anyone give a shit about, you know, reading what I invented? Who am I to make people read something, or not make, but who am I to somehow, I don't know, take up space in the universe with my invented stories? Why am I so egotistical to think that I can do this? So that is a process that lasts for maybe a while. And, you know, I've learned that if I can get over it, then I finish the story, and then I really don't want to read it because I think that it's awful again. And then after that, some time passes and I read it and think, oh, this is actually pretty good. So yeah, once you get over that hurdle, I think, you know, this is the saboteur in inside of all of us. You know, once you get rid of your saboteur in that way, you know, that person, that little thing that keeps telling you, you are no good, you're terrible, and everybody hates you, and why are you trying to make other people read you or like you, then forget it, you know. You have to kill that little voice. And it's difficult to kill that voice, and I'm still struggling with it. But, you know, that voice also is good because it criticizes you, and, you know, it doesn't allow you, or me at least, I should not be saying you, it doesn't allow me to completely relax and feel just very confident, because I've learned that also confidence really hinders my writing as well, or any kind of performance. When I'm too confident, I'm overly confident, I perform badly, I think. So I prefer not to be overly confident. People tell me that I affect them in a positive way. And so, like, this is very humbling that you've asked me to be a mentor, that you consider me a mentor, and you've asked me to be in this video. And I'm not joking. I really do feel that way about people saying that I've affected them positively. There have been young women recently who have come up to me and said that that my writing has given them courage to write something or to do something, like not take up something, but rather to come to make a decision, to finally get unstuck from some position that they were not enjoying. And they've told me that I've inspired them to move on, or to take action. And there have been several women who've said this to me, or who've written things like that to me. There have been women who have contacted me about being abused or harassed, and who asked me for help, and just the fact that they think that I can help them with such a serious issue has been also a very humbling experience. And so I can't say that it's one moment, but it's just been happening more and more recently, where I would get these stories from younger women, and this is beautiful that I've managed to somehow affect someone positively, and I'm truly humbled and thankful that that's happening. I have several jobs. My bread and butter job is my teaching job. So I teach at the university in Skopje. I teach literature. I teach American literature, and I love teaching. And I'm so humbled again and happy that I can work with young students, and that I can learn from them and see how generations change, and that I can infect them with the bug of literature. So that's what motivates me. Every year it's different, because I have new people and new students, and every year they respond differently to the texts that I teach them, and I teach them new texts, and then I learn new things from them. So it's very dynamic, and teaching is amazing. Then there is my job as a translator, and that's also kind of ideological, because Macedonia is very small, and the Macedonian language is spoken by not that many people. And also because Macedonian language was standardized only after the Second World War, it doesn't really have a body of translation, of translated works. So I think the more we translate into Macedonian, the better we get in terms of literacy and language and culture and arts. So I translate because of that, but also because it really helps me with my writing. Because translating is the way in which you can really delve into a particular work, and you can learn so much about that particular writer, and you can steal from her or him if you want. You can learn a lot of tricks. So that's why I translate. That's my second job. And my third job is my writer. So my writer. My third job is being a writer. And I wouldn't really say third. Nowadays, I guess it's my first job. And I think I liberated myself a lot through this process of writing. I've never felt more free now after writing, let's say, all these books, where I've learned how to deal with so many issues. And so I don't think I need motivation. It's just there to do. Writing is beautiful, and so is reading. So I encourage you to do both if you want, if you like to write. But definitely do read books.